Hey YouTubers, how's it going? This is me. This is video number three, 3 days in a row. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to do a 365-day journey as to how it's going and telling the story and what it's like and how I'm doing on a daily basis. And I'll try. I just can't guarantee that I'll be able to do it every single day, especially one day in particular that I'll be flying back to the United States. Um, but we'll see. We'll see how things progress. Um, yesterday I spoke about the day that it happened and told the story. So, I thought I'd talk a little bit about what kind of happened afterward while we were just sort of in this sort of state of limbo. And that's what it felt like. It was a Sunday here. Well, it's a Sunday there too, but it kind of like Saturday, Sunday. You can't really do anything. The only thing that I could think to do was to start notifying people. So the first person I notified was my mom's friend and my friend too, Ruth. And I noticed she was online quite early in the morning, so I said, "Did my brother happen to call you?" And she was like, "No," on Facebook Messenger. And I said, "Okay, I'm very sorry to have to tell you this, but my mom and my dad have died in a car accident yesterday." She's from Michigan, but she goes down to Florida during the winter months. And she was just like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I told her what details I knew. I said, "Yeah, go, I can only tell you what I know. I know. But uh, yeah, drunk driver." They were killed instantly. So anyway, within a few hours, she told me, she says, "Well, I'm going to fly back to Michigan." I told her I'm flying. I think I'd booked my flight at that point. I said, "I'm flying back Thursday." And she says, "Okay, I'm going to book a flight and I'm going to come and help you guys." And first I was going to say, "Oh, you don't have to do that." But then I don't know. So the thing, and that's usually what people do. And but everybody's like, let people help. Just let them help. You don't have to let them all help at once, but make a list of what people want to do and what they're good at, and hey, take advantage. So anyway, I asked her about my dad's friend, John, who's his golfing buddy, because I know that they knew each other but not well. But I said, "Do you have any idea what his phone number is? Because I don't have it. We don't have their phones yet, and he'll want to know." He and my dad are really close friends. And she says, "I don't." Um, I looked at my dad's Facebook page, couldn't find it. Later that day, my sister-in-law managed to get my dad's cell phone and went through, and we got his number, and I informed him. So that was just it. That was a few hours of just informing people. And I never realized how hard it was going to be to say those words over and over again to people. They have died. One person was my dad's cousin Dale, who lives in Michigan. I wasn't sure if he still lived in the same spot. I got two different numbers on him. I let him know. I left a message. I didn't hear back from him. His daughter got back in touch with me the following morning via Facebook Messenger. She must have looked me up on Facebook is the best thing for this, at least for people our age. Um, so yeah, she says, "You're Jim and Tony's daughter." And I said, "Yes." And she says, "I'm very sorry to hear that." And Dale does know. It was just dreadful that day. My roommates were starting to wake up, and first thing they say is, "How are you doing?" These are my roommates who are my friends that I've known them for like 10 years. "How are you? You all right?" And I'd have to say, "Not really." My parents died, and they were just like, "What? What happened?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been up since about 3 o'clock this morning. I found out a few hours ago." I did have a friend of mine drop by, and one of my stick fighting coaches, because we were supposed to have a session that morning, and I just said, I can't, guys. And they were like, "Oh, okay." And I just said, "This is why." And then they were like, "Oh, what?" And yeah, so he came by and brought me some flowers. So yeah, and it's really hard to really place that day because I was up so early. I do know I took a nap. Oh, and I did phoned my friend Ryan, because I just said, "I know you've only just you fed the duck. I think you fed the birds on Friday. Would you mind doing it today?" And I explained it to him, and he immediately messaged back and said, "My God, yeah, of course." I said, "I need to be by the phone." Um, in some ways, I kind of wish I would have gone out there but I did go out the rest of that week. And I said, "Look, I'm going to need you. I'm going to have to go back to America. I don't know for how long for." Oh, no, I did. I'm going back for a month to help my brother with things. And, can I rely on you to, help with the birds? I know I could, but a month is a long time. I didn't know if he had anything planned. My friend Hannah eventually, I mean, she woke up, she was like, "What?" And immediately wanted to do something. She's like, "Do you want me to come over?" And I'm like, "No, I'm okay today. I just don't want to really see people today." And I've also been up since 3 o'clock in the morning, so I'm going to be going to bed soon, but we'll have a coffee sometime this week. I'm going back on Thursday. So yeah, and again, just I want to take you to at least to the airport. I don't want you traveling all that way on your own. And I was like, "You're gonna get hit with a congestion charge in London and everything." And it's Gatwick. So the thing about London airports that a lot of people don't realize is that, well, any big cities like this, they're not actually in the city. Heathrow is way out west of London, and Gatwick is almost a Brighton. I mean, it probably services Brighton almost as much as it does London, and it's way, way south. So, um, but anyway, she ended up take that on that day. She took me to Bedford, which was nice because you take the Bedford line all the way to Gatwick, and you don't have to get off and go through the London metro system. Anyway, right. I'm sure that's all very fascinating. So just that Sunday was all of a sudden, and it was just my phone blowing up with messages going, "Oh my God, I posted it on Facebook. My brother posted it on Facebook, and that probably got about 80% of the people that knew my parents very well in touch with us." And yeah, and my phone was just blowing up with, "Oh God, can I help you? Can I help you? I knew your mom here." I kept getting friend requests, and I got one from Ireland because my mom used to do the quilting thing over in Ireland when they would visit. And yeah, they were like, it was a bit far for them to travel, but I might pop over there to see them. Yeah, so in and out of sleep that day, still just really trying to digest the news. Um, and like it still wasn't real. It still just didn't seem very real. We didn't really hear much other than getting in touch with John and Ruth, the really close friends of my family. He tried to phone me, but then the call wouldn't come through. But he called me on WhatsApp, and he WhatsApped me a message and said, "Thank you for telling me. Oh my God, I just spoke to your dad the other day." And yeah, and again, let us know if there's anything you can do. It does get a bit overwhelming when so many people call at once, but then again, a friend of mine and I were talking, and they said, "Yeah, it can be, and sometimes it can be a bit of a pain. But think about if nobody called, how would you feel then? Not very good." Yeah, the Sunday kind of went into Monday. Those few days before I left were just they all kind of ran in together. I do remember on Sunday I walked up to Ace, and I thought, again, I did that on the Sunday, and I did it the day before I leave just to see what was there. And I bumped into Sean, my old neighbor, because she goes up there too. And she does a lot of crafting and stuff like I do. And she saw my post and she was like, "Oh, Gretchen." She comes up, "Come here," and gives me a hug. And she said, and I said, "I know it sounds kind of odd, but it was being strange to see me here, but this is kind of my happy place." And she's like, "Absolutely. You got to get through this, how you get through it. You want to shop, shop." I did. I didn't buy very much. Um, and yeah, I also didn't want to go up to the counter. I just didn't want to face them and tell them. I still haven't told them. I've been back there a couple of times and haven't really interacted with them because I think they might say, "We haven't seen you in a while." And I think, "Yeah, this is why." Um, and then had dinner and spoke to Andy, my kickboxing coach, and said, "I'm not coming tonight. Obviously, I'm going to be away for a bit." And he's the one that lost his wife. So it was just that kind of thing, constantly fielding messages, trying to get in touch with people. Um, and like we said, what do you do? What do you do? I think it was that day that my brother had said, it was that day or the following day that he said, would you object to having mom and dad cremated? And I said, object. I think that's a hell of a good idea. You know, my mom was Catholic and my dad was a Methodist, but they weren't really churchy people. Now, Catholicism and the Protestant faiths are very similar. There's a lot of values shared. So we could have had a religious service that could have accompanied both of them. Um, Catholics don't object to cremation anymore. That for quite a while they have not, but we have some uber Catholic family that might say something snickery. And I said, well, if any of them say anything, I'll tell them they ain't gotta come. Don't come to the service. Fuck off. We don't need it. And that's the way you got to be with some people. Fortunately, none of them did. Everybody really gave us really nice compliments on what we arranged. Um, it might have actually been that Sunday because my brother got an offer from a friend of his who his wife works at our First Congregational Church in the town, and they've said, "Hey, you can have it here, have the service here. You're more than welcome to." You have to obviously pay the fee, which is not very much. It was like $100 for the pastor, and that's a donation to the church. And then they do a nice luncheon afterward, and that was about 500. So I kind of just said, I said I don't want to look like we're doing it on the cheap. These were our parents, but I want to do something nice, But then again, they would have said, "What's the point of spending 20 grand on a funeral?" when you could use that money for something else. Do something nice and do something respectful. And they did. And I'll talk about the service another time. But yeah, I said, that's the only thing. I don't want to feel like we're cutting corners on them. And my brother said, yeah, I understand that. I get that. But, they wouldn't have wanted anything real fancy. They just want something real nice. A little bit of practical advice. If you do go for cremation, do not buy the urn from the crematorium or the funeral service or whatever. They will charge you a fortune. Buy your own. And you can get probably the very same ones off of Amazon. And we ended up getting a really nice one off of Amazon. The only thing with it was that being that was my mom, dad, and we put the dog in there as well, even though the dog got his own because they cremated him separately. Um, it was up to 250 pounds. But my dad was about 210 and is thinking, well, if we're gonna put mom and the dog in there, we're gonna have to go up a size. And he says, yeah, but the next size is 650. So I said, well, we're gonna have to do that unless we're gonna buy separate urns. And he was like, no, okay, we'll get the big one. And I was like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, God, I chuck the whole family in there when the time comes. And it was very, very beautiful. And I believe my brother still got the ashes. So we managed to iron that out. And I was thinking, yeah, cremation, great way to go. I find even though it has changed, I remember when my grandfather died, on one side, my mom's side of the family, and they were Catholic, and it was the whole laying out for 3 or 4 days. I know today they don't really do that so much because back then, this was back in the early 70s, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have, you had to get in contact with people and let them know, and so they'd have time to travel. Now communication is so much faster that I think a friend of mine who still kind of observes the Catholic ritual says, no, I think they do maybe a day or more if you want to request it, but usually it's done within a day. A friend of mine from high school actually, his father died on the same day as my parents died, and that would have been the Saturday, and he was in the ground by the Friday, and they were very, very Catholic. So yeah, I guess that is true. Over and done with a lot quicker than the drudgery. But it was the whole laying out thing as well. It was, my brother says, I'd rather remember them how they were. I did mention what the medical examiner said. I said, the medical examiner did say that if we wanted to go open casket, there was no reason that we couldn't, but you know, it would have been traumatic. Anyway, but we decided on that, and that was great. Um, so that's kind of the next segment of what happened up until leaving for the United States. I do. I don't think there was anything that stuck out in particular. I just was going up to the allotment, just feeding the birds, um, getting ready, making arrangements for them. I let a few people know on the allotment site, this has happened. I'm going to be away. The birds are in hand. Oh, one thing that this happened the day before I was leaving. I had a big hippo bag that was set to be collected, and they messed the address up. And they were like, "Well, I don't know if we can get to it today." I was like, "Oh, no, you will. This is what's happened. I don't need this." They managed to sort it. Right. So that's sort of the events and what happens. And I don't know if anybody's had a similar experience. If that sort of time period up until not so much to the funeral, because the funeral is the following week. Um, if that just the days just tend to run together. Nothing really sticks out in my mind other than that, other than getting packed that Wednesday night and my friend Hannah taking me to Bedford train station and us going out for coffee the day before. So yeah. Anyway, how does that culminate into what I'm doing, how I'm doing today? Today better. Today is a lot better than I'm feeling yesterday. I made it out to the allotment. I made a point to get out there today. And I just told myself, okay, you're going to do only what you can do. I had plans for what I wanted to do, and I managed to do most of it. But I said, if you get tired, if it gets too overwhelming, you just concentrate on the essentials, which is feeding them and getting them water so they have enough. But, you know, do what you can do. I got there, I decided to walk, even though I've got bus pass. I thought it's a nice day, just walk out there. It's a good way to clear your head. I do that quite often. Actually, I just take the walk. It takes about an hour and 10 minutes. So when I got out there, I did the feed. I was really happy to see the birds. These are not really my birds, but I've got pretty much everything in there. I've got ducks, chickens, geese, turkeys. I've got cockerels, and they're always happy to see me because they know they're getting fed. I mean, I've got a couple of them that are pretty friendly and come up to me, but I've got one turkey that likes to eat out of my hand and run away, Spencer. So that was good. I got the first pen sorted pretty quickly. And then went to the back pen. My birds are split on two sites. One of the things I really wanted to get done today was getting some new bedding down in the ducks and the geese side. Because we're under the bird flu regulations, ducks and geese have to be kept separate from chickens and turkeys. And they hate it because the birds get along. They like to interact with each other and they go up to the fence and look at each other. And so I actually made a start on that. I had 3 bags of rape straw left, so I got all that laid out. And then I went and I got some wood chippings and started putting that around the edges. And I didn't quite finish because the weather started to turn. It got rainy and horrible, and it was getting to be about 1 o'clock. And I thought, you've done 3 hours. This is good. I was starting to feel a little bit tired as well. And I thought, this is probably a good time to go. Put everything away. You've done quite a bit. And you don't have to come out here and do an 8-hour day because sometimes I do. I go out there in the morning and I'm there until it's just about getting dark because weekends were the only time that I could really do it. Now that I'm going to be in sort of semi-retired mode for the rest of the school year, I don't have to worry about that. And it's hard to adjust to that. Plus these 2 weeks, it's Easter holiday anyway. So I've got 2 weeks of just, it's like you don't have to get everything done today. There's lots of stuff you need to do, lots of stuff you want to get done to get it caught up and moved on. So it's in a good place for when you have to go back to America, but don't feel like you got to do it all today. So we got that done. Um, so tomorrow I plan on going out there today. The weather started to get bad, and then of course when I got everything put away, oh, it clears up, of course. But now out there right now, it's looking like it's going to be rainy for a while. So yeah, it was probably a good decision to come home. Got lots of eggs, so the birds are laying. So all of that is really good. Does that help? I think in some ways it does. First of all, it just gets you out of the house. It was a sunny day for the most part until the weather started to turn. So I think being out in the sun raises your serotonin levels. I mean, that has been shown to be true. Um, do I still feel sad? Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really wanted was my parents to come and really see what I'd created with the chickens and ducks. They'd seen videos. I post a lot of videos on Facebook called the Allotment Chronicles, and they'd seen all of those. So they knew what birds, but it would have been really nice for them to come and actually see it and come and experience it. And, they're not going to get the chance to do it. And they know I want to start a farm, like a proper farm. And hopefully now I can maybe make some steps to do that. But compared to yesterday, where I was just so drained and so tired and just wanting to go back to bed, not even wanting to get out of bed, I don't feel that way. Now, that doesn't mean that, hey, I'm moving to the next level of grief. No, tomorrow it could be a shitty day. Um, like I said, like I said yesterday, about 5 to 6 days out of the week are really shitty, and I might get one or two that are sort of okay. And I think as the process moves along and you're undulating through it, okay, then maybe only 5 days and 2 days are good, kind of that thing. I think that's kind of what you've got to sort of look for. But also, I think you have to remember that these things hit you in waves. There's triggers. It's never, well, I shouldn't say it's never the actual grief. I can look at a picture of my mom and dad and I don't come over all emotional. I can look at the card from the funeral that was really nice. I don't get all emotional about that. But what hits me is when something doesn't go right. Case in point, when I was at home, I had mentioned about how I had the day where I was tossing furniture around. Well, what triggered it was I wanted to get on the exercise bike and the cord had come out and I couldn't get it to switch on. And I tried everything until I just lost it. I was like, I just want to get on the exercise bike and do 30 minutes to calm me down. Is that so much to freaking ask? And I just started flipping stuff around the room and throwing stuff and just, and after I was done, I was kind of tired. And yeah, a couple of people go, "Oh, did that help you any?" Really sarcastically, because I told them what happened. Nobody else was there. And I was like, it kind of did. Keep your freaking opinion to yourself. And then after I had that little burst of release of frustration, I actually found the cord and plugged it in and it worked. It's a little bit of a div, but no, but those are the things. It's not really so much the loss. It's something that happens and that's the trigger, and then it all hits you. Um, it does come in waves as well. Like there'll be those reminders that are coming up. First one is going to be Easter. Um, we're not really big Easter people. We're not really churchy people, but we'd always call and say Happy Easter and what are you doing? Oh, we're gonna go grab dinner and we're gonna go take some Easter eggs over to so and so and that kind of thing. And now that's gone. I'm not gonna be doing that on Easter Sunday. I'll probably call my brother and say, "Oh, Happy Easter. What are you doing?" He doesn't eat eggs, so probably not much. Right. Um, this is a bit of a rambling sort of video. Like I said, this is just sort of a chronicle of how I'm doing, but if anybody gets anything from this, I hope so. Makes me happy. If it helps, if you're grieving, you got to work your way through it your own way. I'll talk about the pastor and the service, and one of the things he said that in a bit more detail, but um, one thing he did say was, you don't get over it, you get through it. So that's what we got to do, is just get through it. Right. Okay. That's all I'm going to say for now. Um, so like I've said, if I had to rate today on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it about a 6. Whereas yesterday was 1, maybe got up to about a 2, 2.5, inching up to 3, but that was about as good as the day got. 1 being, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't know, 0 is probably, I don't want to get out of bed. 1 is, I'm out of bed and in my pajamas. I was in my pajamas till about 10 o'clock and then dip back down when I had the altercation with the snotty receptionist at the GP's office. But then I kind of, after I had the talk with her, it kind of inched back up to 2, inching towards 3, and then just sort of had a wasted day yesterday. Just watched videos. Right. Okay. I really am going to go now. Everybody take care of themselves, and I might be back on tomorrow. We'll see. Have a good day, and ciao.